And I'm back. Okay, I promised another second video from this week's haul, and it's a big one. So, the last video I did was the new stuff that I bought, new reissues. This is some of the used stuff that I got in Montreal. Lots and lots of underground dance stuff, mostly from the 80s, a couple from the 90s, maybe one or two from 2000s, but this covers a gamut of, old school house, new wave, some synth, some freestyle, a bit of pop in there. Well, anyway, you'll see. We'll get into the whole thing. I'm just reviewing everything here. Okay, so why don't we start it off at the back end, which is Chaka Khan from the Crush Groove soundtrack. Crush Groove, highly recommend this movie if you haven't seen it yet. It is a classic hip hop movie with like actual hip hop people in it. I think the Fat Boys are in it. Beastie Boys, I think, are in it. Maybe LL Cool J. It's kind of like a bit of a take on the Def Jam story, I believe. But yeah, from the 80s. And this is from 85. This is the Crush Groove Can't Stop the Street. So it's kind of title track, I guess, from the compilation. I don't have the whole soundtrack, but I got this single. So that kicks it off. Chaka Khan. Get into some new wave stuff. Stuff I had not heard of at all. I got this for $5. Correct spelling with the incorrect spelling of correct spelling. Love Me Today. Seems like a one and done kind of band from my research online. This Canadian pressing as well. I think they only did a Canadian pressing of this record. And this is just really a single, actually. Produced by Midge-Ura, though, right? So 1980s represent. 1980s new wave represent. It's quite good, actually. And it's a promo stamped as well, that one. Got a copy of this, which I never had before, which is the Wang Chung album. It's actually quite solid. I definitely knew Dancehall Days, obviously, from this album, but the other tracks are quite good, too. So this is a Geffen release in 83. This is an album. I'm lying that they're not all singles in this pile, but 1980s new wave nonetheless. Picked up $6 for that one. So what else we got here? Okay, some more 1980s. How about The Art of Noise and Legs? Really fun single. I think it's from the same album with Peter Gunn on it. And what is it, Moment in Time? Just a classic material for sure. Good to have this on 12-inch version. Canadian Press, 1985 again. You got the Inside Leg Mix and Hoops and Mallets. There it is in crystals. Those who don't know Art of Noise, definitely check them out. They're kind of a sample-based group from the 80s. So sort of pioneering. It's fun stuff. Got a bit of a beat. I got some Chicago in the house next. Mickey Oliver, Hot Mix 5. Hot Mix 5 was a famous early house music radio show on the radio in Chicago. And a bunch of the legends on that. This one features Shanna J on the vocals, produced by Mickey Oliver and Cheese and Shanna J. Picked that up for $6. It's an excellent single. I never had this one. I've had some other Hot Mix 5s. Pretty much if you see that label and you're looking for old school 80s style house, with that, heavy drum machine basically, maybe some vocal samples, this label is what you want to look for. And this one, really happy to have that in my collection. Speaking of old school 80s house, this is not the right sleeve for it, but Idler's records also you want to get if you're looking for that old school sound. This time on the New York side of things, this is Royal House, a huge track back in the day. Party People, which is sampling Africa Bambaataa saying Party People on the microphone. And flip side is Key the Pulse, similar track. They all have similar beats. This is Todd Terry on the production. And it's early house / freestyle beats, really, if you know anything about that subgenre. some more freestyle subgenre stuff in here too. Another one like that, which is somewhere in here. Maurice. Maurice on Streetwise. You guys can see that. And just one single really from Maurice, although she is involved in some other projects back in the day, and not necessarily house music, I don't think. This is from 1984, Bop Till I Drop. Includes the bop mix and the drop mix. Produced by Bruce Nazarian and Dwayne Bradley on Streetwise label of New York City. Also a solid label for 80s style old school house. Really good dance 12-inch. It says $1, but I actually paid like $5, I think, for that. It was covered up. Back to some new wave synth pop. An artist I never heard of before in my life. I actually got a couple of things with this guy. Louise Sim? Am I saying that right? Bellis Sim. This is the Some People album. I think his debut album. 1984 on Capitol and EMI. This is the inner sleeve with lyrics. It's pretty good. Not bad. Kind of catchy. Growing on me as we speak. Covers very 80s. And I actually got the single for this album too, which is sort of the best song on the album. But the other songs aren't bad too. So this is the single for it as well. Some People. Bellis Sim. He's still alive and kicking. If you look him up on Wikipedia, probably still performing this album. I think he's got a couple albums back in the day. Okay, we'll stick with the 80s again. This is a huge, huge 80s hit, and I'm missing the album cover, or the 12-inch cover. We're talking about Why by Bronski Beat. Who else? Massive, high-pitch, falsetto voice. Great stuff. Basically, Jimmy Somerville is the lead singer of Bronski Beat. Didn't have this one. Although I think I have the album with this song on it, but this is great to have the 12-inch mix on that. And I got a little bit of Nina Hagen as well. I also have the album of this, but it was very cool to get the New York, New York on 12-inch. Paid $8 for this, but really special too because you get the German version of New York, New York. So you can rock that in the club once in a while. Nina Hagen, really cool way of mixing sort of, I guess, the West German scene between punk and club music back in the 80s. This is something I had no idea about, but I had to grab it, especially for $2. It was in the New Wave section at one of the shops, and it's actually got kind of a sort of early house, UK house kind of production on here. It's world beat as well. Artist from India, West India Company. Track's called Ava Maria. Very cool record. I actually saw it on Discogs for like more like $12. I got a $2 copy. All right, and there was some more. I'd like to get more copies of this thing. Put out on Polygram, London Records, and yeah, check it out. It's got sort of the OG, the original version of the song, but then this kind of nice 80s house production. 1984. And yeah, here we are, featuring a certain Vince Clarke. So Vince Clarke of Erasure, early Depeche Mode on the production side. So it's called West India Company, Ava Maria. If you see this 12-inch, it's a good one. And more 80s house, old school style. Warlock, big label for old school 80s house and hip hop. Jungle Brothers are also on the Warlock label. A bunch of other stuff. This one is Loletta Holloway, the disco queen. But this is actually a 90s record, I think. 1992. This was put out with Crash Goes Love. So pretty cool. She does rip some good vocals in there. She's been sampled, of course, many, many times. More 1980s house. This is Body by Body. So there you go. A little tricky to look that up on Discogs actually, because there's quite a few body bands and stuff. Picked this up for $3, and it is a ripper. 1990 came out, and it's got the Get Busy club version on the back, which is Mr. Lee of Get Busy fame. Mr. Lee out of Chicago, one of the more popular hip house artists. There's no rapping on this, but his style of hip house beats, basically James Brown beats, I guess, sped up and processed, are all over this song and this version, and it's awesome. So another good 12 for spinning. I'm getting some 90s stuff here on the Mao label. That's Masters at Work, aka Little Louis Vega and Kenny Dope Gonzalez. Kenny Dope has some solo work, and Little Louis has solo work as well, so they came together on this label. This is Dirty Harry, Gotta Release, I Get Up and Come Up. I do remember these tracks a little vaguely back in my mind from 90s club scene in Montreal. So as soon as I heard the needle drop, I kind of recognized it, and for $5, why not? It's on the OG MAW Mao label. So solid 90s pick. This one I think might be from 2000s. I've got a couple things by this artist and label. 2003. It's on the Mighty Atom record label. This is out of UK, I think. Love Juice. All one word, Love Juice. And this one is the Biscuits Damage and Jack Dis Effin Speaker. Okay, one track per side. Pretty good, solid tech house. 2000s tech house is a lot cooler, fairly minimal, fairly jackin' in this case than, say, the current sound of tech house, which is much fuller and bigger and maybe more commercial in some senses. This is not really a commercial record. It's pretty stripped back, stripped down. It's not Berlin minimal either, so it's UK tech house. There you go. Back to the 80s. Curtis Blow. Some hip hop in here. The Tough song. Things Are Tough. Curtis Blow, you know, it's like, he's kind of hit and miss. I wouldn't say like this is the best MC of all time, although I think he did have a song, The Greatest of All Time or something, probably, right? He was definitely good at the braggadociousness. And he's a legend. Like, he's an early hip hop rapper. And but you know what? I'm probably going to play the instrumental version more, maybe. But this is kind of like old school disco rap, where they just sort of rap for the entire song. There might not even be a chorus sometimes. You'll find that. So, early days of hip hop. Back to house music. Kim English. Kim English. Great voice. This is on Nervous out of New York. But I think, unfortunately, Kim English had passed away a few years back. But had some great tracks. This is Treat Me Right. There's a couple of different versions of this, different remixes and stuff. I think this is the main single, followed by the remixes. And I'm just looking for the date. This is actually a 2000s record, 2002. And she was in the 90s as well. 90s house, Swag. This is UK house. Done very well. Top level production on this for 1990s, 1996 on Just Tracks, which was a sub-label of Junior Boy's Own. Anyway, two awesome labels from the 90s for house and techno, and Swag are excellent as well. I think that's Chris Duckenfield and Richard Brown, who have done solo stuff as well. Happy to pick that up. Found that in Montreal for $10. Didn't have it in my collection. Got another one on that label as well. Just gonna grab that. Los Jugaderos, the Bario Stress EP. Also picked that up. Some sick, big sounding house, but not like overwhelming, not too much instrumentation, just the drums are really well produced. Great sound. Compared to this, which is much more, not lo-fi, but slimmer production. This is from the 80s. This is In Parallel on Boulevard, Reduced to Tears. I want to say that this is maybe Canadian even, but it's definitely a Canadian press. Some new wave from the 80s, 12-inch. Boulevard number 6. More new wave. This one is an album, Surveillance by Walkie Talkie. Never seen this before. Again, this is just blind buy. Turns out pretty good. $4. I'll take a risk. I'll take a risk under $5. Definitely take a risk on $2. This one was also pretty cheap, but I got the sticker off. Flaming Hands. More 80s synth pop, new wave. On Attic Records, Canadian label. So might be a Canadian band as well, or not. 1984. And then we got Keith LeBlanc. This one's a little disappointing, I'll tell you why. Keith LeBlanc is awesome. He was one of the producers in Tackhead, along with Doug Wimbish and Adrian Sherwood and the gang. So this is a solo single, Einstein it's called. Vinyl is in great shape, but I didn't realize the water damage on the cover. Yeah. So anyway, got it for $6. So I guess you get what you pay for. This is a Canadian press, so it's on that network label. Same label that had Severed Heads and Skinny Puppy and Sarah McLachlan. So that's what happens. Anyway, cool track. Samples Einstein. I mean, you don't hear that every day, but samples of Einstein speaking about science and stuff. Nuclear weapons, I don't know. Also from the 80s, 89 on Sleeping Bag Records. This is the West German pressing of this single from Joyce Sims. Looking for a Love. This is not the best Joyce Sims single to get, but I was aware of her and I like Sleeping Bag stuff. And so this was kind of in my maybe pile actually, but I had some store credit and it was $7, and so I grabbed it. But and it's the Fur UK Fur label reissue, so it's not the US pressing of it. Doesn't have. I feel like it could have had a better mix on here, so maybe some of the other versions have better mixes. This has the club version, instrumental version, and radio version. Joyce Sims. Could grow on me. Love this old school hip hop right here. Whew. Had to take a quick break there. Marathon. Almost done. Actually, whoa, this might be the last record. Wow, good way to end. How You Like Me Now. Kool Moe Dee. This is a killer single, man. This is probably my favorite Kool Moe Dee song, actually. Definitely his best album. Well, this along with Wild Wild West, right? I think it's the same album. And yeah, it's all How You Like Me Now on here. Instrumental, album version, extended version, single edit. Kool Moe Dee. Original member of Treacherous 3, coming out of this, talking about earlier, the 70s kind of disco rap era, where they just kind of rap forever without a chorus. This is a much more modern sounding hip hop record with, you know, verse, chorus, verse. Great production, and haven't seen it often in the wild, so bit of a grail in a way. I knew as soon as I saw it, I was like, I gotta grab that, and it was only $7, so can't go wrong with that. Anyway, that's a bit of my 12-inch underground dance haul from 80s and 90s. I'll see you guys on the next one.